we started Green Energy Technology 4 years ago. And it was really a matter of just seizing an opportunity. My partner and I saw a totally fragmented business where the funny part of it is we called up one of the manufacturers and we asked them about the process, and they said, well, yeah, we're going to sell you a box. And we said, gee, what about the electronics? Do you have anything to support that? Do you have, you have people to support that? He says, no, we're going to sell you a box.
Okay.
And I asked him 2, 3, 4 questions, and I got the very same answer, but with a slightly different intonation. And I just cracked up because it became so clear to us at the outset that certain people do certain things and they don't go a step beyond it.
Right, their limit is here.
He's limited to his scope. He's just an order taker. Tell me what flavor you want, which size do you want, and I'll sell you the box.
Yes.
That's basically what it amounted to. And so John and I had some lengthy conversations about.
Now, John is
my partner.
Your partner,
John,
and the company is called?
The company is Green Energy Technology. Thank you for pulling me back into that.
Yeah, if we could pull up the website here for a second. So this is the company is called Green Energy Technology.
Right.
And you are specifically in the business of charging stations?
Charging stations is really what we do, but it's what's fascinating about it for me is that we have basically sewn together all of the steps that it takes from initial concept all the way through to plugging them in, getting them working, and believe it or not, we plant a tree for every single charger we put in the ground.
Wow. Who are these channel partners that you mentioned on the website?
There are a bunch of them. We have some faves, of course. I mean, we started out working with Green Lots. Green Lots was basically acquired by Shell Oil.
Okay.
And so it's Shell is now
by Shell Oil. Wow.
Shell Oil. Oh yeah, Shell Oil has plans. They have a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 50-year plans. And right now it looks like they're on their way out of the oil and gasoline distribution business and moving into electricity through a company that they call Shell Recharge.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
How interesting. They're looking to go green.
Yeah, they absolutely are. They absolutely are. As a matter of fact, we had an agreement with them to do 8 or 9 gasoline stations, company-owned spots in New Jersey to install DC fast chargers on their sites.
Really? Okay.
And they're into it big time. We now have an agreement with them. We're now working with them, and we plan to be doing a lot of work with them. Very fascinating.
Are the other big oil companies getting involved as well?
I would anticipate so, but I couldn't speak to that.
I assume they've all
got to be chomping at the bit.
Yeah,
because quite frankly, they can see the future just as we do. As a matter of fact, that tagline is "The future is now."
Yes,
so
I saw that, right.
So we see that pretty clearly. We know that so much of what's going on here it's changing so radically, yet it's so incredibly exciting at the very same time. So you asked about channel partners. So we started out with Green Lots, and that morphed into Shell Oil.
Okay. Keep our page on.
We work with a company called Tritium, which is in the center of the screen.
Yes.
Which, by the way, literally just Monday opened up its plant in Lebanon, Tennessee, and they'll be cranking out about 30,000 DC fast chargers a year out of that facility.
Really?
Brand new.
Really?
And what's even better is that while we're waiting for equipment from them, which comes from Australia and then lands in California and then gets shipped, and what's happening with supply chain that's killing everybody.
It's terrible, sure.
They're going to be building those things right here in the U.S.
Oh,
how great is that?
Wow.
And it's a fabulous product.
And where are they going? Where are they putting these?
Well, we have been installing for them, as are many other companies. I mean, Revel, as an example. I'm sure you've heard of Revel.
Yes, Revel. Okay.
Revel has a site in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. They're looking at a number of other sites here in New York. They're looking at a bunch of sites on the West Coast.
Is it full there? I mean, what's the charging time if you pull up to those stations? What have you seen that happens?
They're using DC fast chargers. They're using the RTM 75, which is 75 kilowatt per hour.
Okay,
which
75
basically
kilowatt
means,
per hour charge.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can get a 75 kilowatt charge. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Here's part of the hidden mystery.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here's part of the mystery. So there's a little devil in the details. It's called demand charges.
Demand charges. Okay.
Right. And that is an extra layer of revenue taken by, or tariff, if you will, taken by the utilities during high demand periods.
During the day kind of thing?
Well, in New York City, which is obviously Con Ed territory, strangely enough, that seems to be 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
4 to 8. Okay, everybody's home using their stuff.
Exactly. All right. Now, on Long Island, PSE&G, demand during the summer is all day.
Really? 24 hours a day?
No, daylight, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Got it. But everybody's cranking their ACs at night. It's not.
Yeah, I understand.
I guess the
that.
businesses, the buildings are closed.
I understand that, but you're right. The businesses are shut down. However, when you're in the business of providing electric vehicle charging stations and the service of providing that charging for customers, you need to be very cognizant of when that electricity is available and at what cost.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when you asked me about, when you start to lead into 75, you can get a 75 kilowatt charge, the answer to that is maybe. Simply because they too, Revel as an example, is very much aware of their cost of electricity, and they'll look to control it.
And maximize their profits.
Maximize profits by limiting the amount of electricity that flows at any particular time of the day.
Got it.
Whereas, again, conversely, for their own vehicles, and they've got a fleet of quote-unquote taxi cabs, if you will, kind of like Ubers, they'll charge those at night. Because that's when it's most cost effective.
Got it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. So, channel partners, we work with a lot of different companies. We go out into the marketplace as being hardware agnostic.
Okay, so it doesn't matter
what
brand.
It doesn't matter what brand. We have our favorites, but if a client wants one thing versus another thing, we're real happy to give them what they want. If we feel differently about what they should be using, we'll make a recommendation. If they accept it, fine. If they don't and they're hard and fast on what they want, customer's always right.
Is there a specific way these building owners or property owners have to engage? Or are there options of how they can get these installed on their properties? How do you do it?
Interesting question. And again, that really is part of what differentiates green energy technology from many of our competitors. And we really feel we have no competitors.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. When you call us, you're making one phone call. And we do it all.
Okay.
From the very beginning to the very end. And there are about a dozen steps to it. So you're talking about permitting, you're talking about a relationship with utilities, you're talking about a traffic study to see where things belong, where they'll lay out best.
Wow, that could take some time, traffic study?
Yeah, it's not as horrific as it might be.
Good.
There's an engineering study taking a look at the electricity, what you have, what you need, what has to be moved around. There is certainly the procurement of the hardware and the software. There's the construction that needs to be done. There is the electrical work that needs to be done, potentially financing the equipment and the hardware and the whole installation.
Really?
Monitoring and maintaining the equipment, doing the billing and collection. And, then there are rebates to consider. There are tax credits to consider. And at the end of the road, carbon credits to consider.
What if you go through all that effort and they're not in a good spot?
You'd have a real problem.
Okay.
And that's really why it's important to do it the right way.
To have somebody like you do a study.
Yeah, exactly.
Next thing you know, it's maybe not in the most prime spot.
Exactly. And let me share a real quick story with you. We went in with a pre-construction agreement in a particular facility that was being set up for a logistics center. And the conduit was being laid out in the building according to the architect's plans.
Okay.
But the architect really did not know a lot about our industry.
So he's doing things according to what he
So-
knows, but not your specific needs.
Precisely, okay? And when we went in there and we looked at it, we turned some things around and saved the owner, I don't remember if it was 4,000 or 6,000 linear feet of conduit. Now, when you think about that, I mean, that adds up. It's not just pennies a foot, because the point is, if that's getting buried in concrete, then you're talking about trenching. Then you're talking about a lot of work that really needs to be looked at and redone.
And more physical pipe that's could be a problem later on.
Absolutely.
Unnecessary.
Absolutely. So it's really important that you know what you're doing. This is not work for amateurs. It really is not. Now, you asked about a building owner. Well,
Yes.
oftentimes building owners will say, okay, help us to get the equipment, then I'll have my electrician put it in.
Right, who has no idea.
But the electrician has no idea. Now, look, I shouldn't say that. There are plenty of great electricians who know what they're doing and know how they should lay out, whether or not they've ever done a charging station before. Okay? But more often than not, they don't have the experience. And so it makes a lot of sense to work with someone who does. Now, another thing that I should bring up.
So I would say, so you're acting like a project manager besides kind of laying out the whole deal. You're kind of playing
project
the
managing, but
middleman.
we're actually fulfilling everything. It's all in-house. Everything we're doing is in-house.
So an owner has to invest, or is there different kinds of deals? How does it
There,
work?
there are different ways of going about this.
What's the best way? What kind of deal do you like the best? Or what works best for the landowner?
From my perspective, I'm happy to go in and do everything that I've just described to you for the owner, and either collect a check or set up a lease.
Okay, gotcha.
that's-
So they
and
can
that's
buy
fine.
it, they own it, and you're managing it.
And yeah, but there are other advantages because they get the tax depreciation.
Tax depreciation.
Okay, they can depreciate that equipment. There are rebates that come back to them, and the big and there are also tax incentives for doing it. I mean, as an example, the feds currently give a 30% tax credit up to $100,000 max, which means that if you spend $100,000, you're getting a $30,000 tax credit. That's the largest
Wow,
tax
that's
credit.
really nice.
New York State does the same thing for $5,000 per site.
Okay.
So you can start out, for argument's sake, with with $35,000 tax credit against a $100,000 bill.